Welcome to the World of Books, one of seven worlds in Seven World Productions, a subsidiary of Angelgram Music. My name is Gino, and I am sole owner of Angelgram Music as well as executive director of Seven World Productions. Continuing our series In Search of Beauty, here is Chapter 20, Courtney. Hope you enjoy. Previously on In Search of Beauty. It was later, when we saw the tape telecast, that we noted Cecilia's evening gown score was the highest at 9.765, with a 10.0 being perfect. The rest of the competition did not matter. She made it to the top 5 and beyond. I was convinced that she showed confidence without being boastful and humbleness without self-pity throughout the competition, from the presentation show and through the telecast. She had found the key ingredient to enchanting the hearts and minds of the judges. And that's how Cecilia Boloco, a young woman from Santiago, Chile, became Miss Universe 1987 in Singapore. Chapter 20, Courtney. On March 1st, 1988, Alan Thicke hosted the Miss USA pageant. It was telecast from El Paso, Texas, and the fourth consecutive Miss Texas, Courtney Gibbs from Fort Worth, Texas, won the crown of Miss USA. I was not surprised. The talented team of Guy Rex Productions in Texas was on a roll. They consistently were able to groom their Miss Texas contestants to a standard that was unbeatable in pageant history. Richard Guy and Rex Holt, both former Arthur Murray dance instructors, formed Guy Rex in 1964 when they were designing parade floats for El Paso's Thanksgiving Day Sun Bowl Parade and designing Christmas decorations for downtown banks. In 1971, they took over the Miss Texas franchise of the Miss America contest, but were dismissed 4 years later over what Mr. Holt described as creative differences. Guy Rex got the job of Texas director for the Miss USA pageant that same year to replace the previous director, who created a scandal by collecting entry fees and failing to hold a pageant, according to Mr. Guy. Guy Rex knew how to groom winners. I was not at all surprised when Courtney won that year. Guy Rex also ran the Miss California USA pageant. Diana Magana, Miss California USA, placed first runner-up to Courtney. Both ladies were groomed by these very talented producers and consultants. In May of that year, we went to Taipei, Taiwan for the Miss Universe pageant. Courtney placed in top 10 with the highest scores from the presentation show, but was unable to place in the top 5. Porntip Nangkirungkanuk, Miss Thailand, won the crown that year and became Miss Universe. The Little Sisters in Taipei were delightful. We had them perform in the presentation show as well as the telecast. The hostess for the presentation show was Taiwan national icon Louise Tsui. Louise had made a name for herself in Taiwan with a movie and singing career of a star and was very well known in the entire Asian continent. She was a beautiful dark-haired lady with a sultry voice and performed for the locally televised presentation show in addition to emceeing the event. At the conclusion of the show, the Little Sisters congregated around me as I congratulated them on their performance. Louise walked over towards me and the Little Sisters parted, and as Louise came to hug me, all the little ones began to sigh and swoon. Louise said that I was very special to have so many little girls in love with me. I told her that I loved them all and how much of a privilege it was to teach them. Louise said that after I returned to the States, she would call me about some musical arrangements she would need for her concert at the beginning of the Chinese New Year in 1989. I told her I would be honored to help, but would not be available till sometime in the fall because my summer was already booked. Courtney and I were destined to be together in a very memorable tour in June of that year with Lane Brody and Thom Bresh on a USO tour. In 1976, Lane Brody made her recording debut with the single You're Gonna Make Love to Me under the pseudonym Lynn Miles. Brody next moved to California, where she in 1981 signed with Liberty and debuted on the singles chart with the self-penned He's Taken. Her next release, More Nights, made it to the top 60. Near the end of the year, she had a minor hit duet with Thom Bresh, When It Comes to Love. That same year, Brody made her television acting debut on the series Taxi and was nominated for an Emmy the following year for singing Just a Little More Love in the TV movie The Gift of Love. Her next release, More Nights, made it to the top 60, and near the end of the year she had a minor hit duet with Thom Bresh. Her next chart appearance came in 1983 with a song she co-wrote, the Oscar-nominated Over You, which was featured in the film Tender Mercies. She scored a #1 hit with her 1984 duet with Johnny Lee, The Yellow Rose, which she and John Wilder adapted from a Civil War standard for use as the theme song to a short-lived TV series. That same year, Brody made her television acting debut on the series Taxi and was nominated for the Emmy. Brody continued to tour with Bresh following a joint appearance on a Lee Greenwood special for TNN with a subsequent special. She also wrote and performed All the Unsung Heroes for a documentary on the Vietnam War Memorial in Washington, D.C. Throughout her career, Brody was also a frequent performer with the USO, entertaining servicemen and veterans. The versatile Thom Bresh played no less than 9 instruments, including the tuba and the steel guitar. He also sang, acted, and did impressions of celebrities. Although involved in country music since the early 70s, the son of country hero Merle Travis, Bresh was born in Hollywood, where he debuted at the age of 3 singing Your Cheatin' Heart at the Carriganville Movie Ranch. He made his feature film debut at age 7 and was already learning to play guitar. At age 15, he replaced Roy Clark in Hank Penny's band and eventually replaced Hank when he retired. Bresh then became an actor stuntman for about 10 years, also playing with the Crescents in the mid-60s. In 1970, he formed his own road band, toured, and eventually returned to L.A., appearing in musicals such as The Music Man. He next moved to Seattle to run Merrily Rush's recording studio and co-hosted the Canadian television show Nashville Swings. He cut the single D.B. Cooper, Where Are You, in 1972 for Cap, recorded 2 singles for MGM 3 years later, and moved to the Far label in 1976. There he recorded the album Homemade Love, whose title cut became a top 10 hit and was followed by a string of top 40 hits. In late 1977, Bresh began a 4-year association with ABC Dot Records, where he cut 2 albums, Kickin' Back and Portrait. Bresh signed to Liberty in 1983 and released a minor hit duet with Lane Brody, When It Comes to Love. He and Brody continued working and touring together, even starring in their own TV special. During the 1988 Miss USA pageant, producer Dan Markley and representatives of the USO attended several rehearsals to see if any of the contestants would be willing to travel with Lane and Thom on a USO tour in the summer. They came to me for advice, and I told them who in that year's group was talented both in singing and dancing. As it turns out, Courtney was one of those I chose. Dan was the producer, while Procter & Gamble, the sponsor for the pageants at that time, was eager to sponsor this tour. The P&G representative insisted that I be part of the tour. I helped write the show and was also billed as the keyboard player in the band of 6 members. We had 5 contestants, as well as Courtney as Miss USA, together with Lane and Thom. The budget for this tour was close to $500,000 with costumes, lighting, sound, and musical equipment. In addition, a team from TNN came along to record the tour for a special 2-hour show. We rehearsed the first week in June in Washington, D.C., right after the pageant in Taipei, and flew to Ramstein Air Base in Germany. We performed at the air base then and went on to Naples, Italy, and performed on the hangar deck of the USS Eisenhower for over 5,000 men and women in uniform. Our closing song, Lee Greenwood's God Bless the USA, brought standing ovations everywhere we went. The next stop on the tour was the island of Crete. We traveled from country to country in a C-130 transport provided by the Department of Defense, headed by then Secretary of Defense Dick Cheney. We sat in chairs that were bolted to pallets, with our luggage in front of us on pallets and our equipment behind us. We had to wear earplugs because the 4 prop engines made so much noise it could cause deafness. Our next stop after Crete was the Hilton in Istanbul, Turkey. We stayed there one night and then went on to Incirlik Air Base in southern Turkey. The base is located about 5 miles east of Adana, the 5th largest city in Turkey. We stayed on base for the next 5 days and performed each night to different divisions. It was my first experience with a PX, a great place to go shopping on a base. Our last stop was the most memorable of all, and changed all of our lives completely. From Incirlik, we flew east to Erzurum. Erzurum is located about 6,500 feet above sea level and about 100 miles from Tehran, Iran, and 200 miles from Moscow. We knew that we were in for a rare performance when we arrived at the small airport and transferred all of our luggage and equipment to 2 old buses and a truck. We drove for about 30 minutes to the quote-unquote hotel. It was an old 5-story building with dorm-like rooms and a community restroom on each floor. We were told to bed down, and in the morning we would travel by bus up to the missile silo base at 12,000 feet above sea level to perform for the troops up there. The guys at the silos stood ready with missiles aimed at Russia and Iran. Remember that back then President Reagan had declared Russia an evil empire, and Iran had taken hostages at the beginning of that decade. So our country was on alert over there 24/7, 365. We were told these boys up at the silo had not seen any fellow Americans in over 6 months, and that they were very eager to see us. That night before our departure to the silos was restless. In the middle of the night we were woken by loud clamoring and laughing coming from the restroom on our floor. It seems that Courtney had to use the room in the middle of the night and could not find the flushing handle on the toilet. The more she looked, the more frustrated she got, and finally just started laughing that this place had no working toilets. Dan Markley came to her rescue by pointing out that the way to flush toilets in this part of Turkey was the old-fashioned way. You had to pull down on a rope beside the toilet that released water from the cistern above the toilet. A special pipe was connected from the cistern to the bowl of the toilet, and when you pulled down on the rope, the water came rushing through the pipe and bowl and flush. After Dan showed this to Courtney, they laughed so hard about it that we all stayed up for over another hour discussing the backward way station we were sleeping in. In the morning, we groggily got up with sponge baths and a light breakfast, rode the bus for 2 hours, and climbed to what some of the soldiers accompanying us said was hell at 12,000 feet. As we climbed, the air got thinner and cooler. By the time we reached the small base, there was snow on the ground, and flurries were falling in the middle of June. We were told we were not far from Mount Ararat. As we began to unpack our equipment and set up for the show, about a dozen young men came out of the building we were going to perform in and ran up to us and embraced us like family. They helped us unpack and carried everything inside. The area we were going to be performing was no bigger than a gym, a basketball court to be more precise. In fact, there were hoops located at each end of the area with a hardwood floor and no stage. It took us several hours to set up and do a sound check. Then the young soldiers who had helped took us to the mess hall where we sat down and had some of their chow, definitely not home cooking. They were called meals in a bag, or MREs. It didn't taste too bad at all. Because of the high altitude, we took a quick nap before performing an early show at 1800 hours. When we got on the stage, we noticed about 15 to 20 soldiers sitting on the floor opposite of where we were set up. They hooted and hollered with such enthusiasm and encouraged us throughout the show. They were the best audience we had. After God Bless the USA, we took our bows, and they all stood up and cheered us even more. We all took turns hugging each and every soldier. We signed autographs for every one of them, and each of them told us where they were from, hoping to find one of us from the same place. You could see in their eyes the loneliness and the pain of separation from their families and friends. I saw the faces of Courtney and the other Miss USA contestants tear up as they talked with each soldier. All of the men were very courteous and extremely polite. They regarded us as very precious connections to their homes and families. We were the conduit of reality and hope that soon they would be relieved of their duty and could once again return to their loved ones. As they helped us pack up the truck and the buses, tears started forming on all of our cheeks, both performers and soldiers. All of us could feel the heartbreak of departure and the sacrifice of servitude the price of freedom really is. These men were protecting our way of life, the life of freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Seeing these soldiers changed our lives. Their faces were forever etched in our memories. As the buses and the truck slowly left the base, we could see all of the soldiers waving and lingering outside in the falling snow of June, with tears streaming down their faces. The only sound you heard on that bus back to the airport that would send us home was quiet sobbing. We were speechless, and each one of us prayed for the safety of those soldiers on a lonely hill in a God-forsaken country. And I vowed that day that any time and anywhere I met a soldier, I would shake their hand and thank them for serving. If you liked this episode, click like and add your comments. Better still, why don't you subscribe if you haven't already so that you may receive email notifications of future episodes. Also, check out our other worlds at Seven World Productions: the world of art, the world of faith, the world of family, the world of food, the world of games, and the world of music. Go and be inspired.